Yo, what's going on, guys? This is going to be your build video for the unstable bomber. I finally got it to a place where I think I can present it to you, so I'm excited for that. But first, make sure you guys drop a sub. We are trying to hit 1K subs as quickly as we possibly can, and in return, we are doing a giveaway for Once Human as well as Throne and Liberty. So we're going to be giving $20 away for each game. So make sure you guys drop a sub. The quicker we get there, the quicker I am able to give back to you guys, my amazing community. But other than that, let's jump straight into it. So first things first, obviously, is going to be your gear. Now, obviously, we're going to be running the Jaws pistol, and I'm going to tell you this right now. We are going as a crit build, and I'll explain the reasoning why when we look at the weapon features. So as everyone knows, the Jaws is going to be unstable bomber. Every 4 hits triggers unstable bomber, and a critical hit counts as an extra hit. So the more critical you do, or the more critical you have, the more likely you are to actually proc unstable bomber. So that's why we are going to be going into a crit build and rather than an elemental build for this. Even more so, hitting a weak spot grants 30% blast damage. So if you're critting and weak spotting, you're just doing more damage overall. And unstable bombers can land critical hits with 25% critical hit rate. So there you go. That's the reasoning why. Now, as it goes for the secondary, there are a few options, but I will tell you my favorites just because, well, it's kind of hard to get a secondary on this game because you're more than likely going to be using your primary. But obviously, option 1 will be the Little Jaws. Now, the reason why I sort of stray away from this one is it's extraordinarily difficult to proc unstable bomber with this weapon. Even at a min-maxed build, it's like maybe 2 to 3 every magazine, so it's not really that worth it. Not to mention also, if you're going to compare this to the normal Jaws, the Jaws is just going to outshine this any day. However, just like the shrapnel build, I would choose the Kumawink as a secondary offhand, and the reasoning why is it's a little convoluted, but you can theoretically get clumps of enemies with the Jaws, but the Kumawink is going to be your best gun in the game. If you're dealing with a ton of little trash mobs, Kumawink is going to be your go-to. And I do remember someone saying, why don't you just run the wildfire or run the recurve crossbow to proc? And I'll tell you this right now, the reason why I do not add these to my builds is because they are very situational. All these YouTubers who are going into Treant, Servitor, all these bosses, they're priming targets that take like 10-15 seconds to do. You're not going to do that on the regular, so that's the reason why I do not advocate for these weapons. Now, of course, you can do that for specific instances, but the majority of the time, you're not doing that. But as we go on to the armor, this is where it gets a little bit interesting. I've seen a lot of people use the shelter set to get their unstable bomber damage up. I've personally strayed away from this. And again, the reasoning why is because the Jaws is based on crit damage, crit rate, all that good stuff. So instead of building into this, we want to build into crit. So I personally would advocate to run a 4-piece lone wolf set. This will increase your crit rate, your magazine capacity, and your crit damage all in one. As it goes for your special piece, we're going to go over to the chest piece. You're going to want to run the Vulture Shaman top. This one, every time you hit unstable bomber, it increases your crit rate by 35%. So you're going to be getting a lot more unstable bomber procs than before. And then finally, the last one piece, I would recommend Bastille. Bastille is pretty much good across the board for every single, or at least one piece is good across the board for all builds, just because you get that extra 10% damage for literally just maintaining good health. Now, as it goes for mods, I will say this is sort of similar to my last build video with Bullseye. There is going to be 2 options for you, at least for unstable bomber, that I would recommend. Number 1 is going to be heavy explosives. Unstable bomber inflicts stagger. Now, this is going to be your go-to for PvP. If your enemy can't move and can't react, well, you're just going to kill them. So that's the reason why I recommend unstable bomber. Pair that in with doing more unstable bomber, you're inflicting stagger a hell of a lot more, so they can't even fight back. It's just a great all-arounder. Personally, for me, I wouldn't have chosen weak spot damage. I would rather crit, but weak spot and crit are sort of interchangeable. It's just a little bit of like a nuisance. But as it goes, this one is sort of perfect for PvP. And I'll explain the reason why this sort of differs from the PvE side of things. But you have 2 damage increases from the attribute effects and then 2 damage reductions. So you have a headshot damage reduction and weapon damage reduction. This is just going to make you do more damage and you take less damage from just normal enemies. It's absolutely great. On the other side, for PvE, you have something like this, supercharged. Triggering unstable bomber grants unstable bomber damage +5 for 3 seconds, can stack up to 6 times. So you're basically doing 30% more damage basically all the time. And again, I probably wouldn't have chose weak spot, but it came with basically the right attributes beyond that, which would be weapon damage, reload speed, damage to great ones, and then obviously weak spot damage. But again, I'm not complaining. Crit and weak spot are basically interchangeable. It's more so preference than anything. But this is basically how it goes for your gun. As it goes for the Kuma Wink, if you decide you want to do the Kuma Wink like me, this right here, Super Bullet, just like my Shrapnel build, this is going to be your go-to. The reason why I don't have damage to great ones is, well, specifically, you're doing damage to normal enemies anyway. You're not going to be using this as a boss killer. This is just going to be your go-to for trash mobs. Now, on to the armor mods. This is very, like, basically on par with your Shrapnel build. You're going to have momentum up. You're going to have resist advantage. You're going to have dead shot violent. You're going to have slow and steady. You're going to have crit amplifier. Where it differs specifically is going to be your mask mod. Now, I have been farming this on EX1 basically this entire season. That's basically all I've been doing since it's the last thing I need to do basically to complete all my 3 builds. And that's to get a actually half decent mask mod. And unfortunately, this is the best one I've got, like, not from EX1, but this is the best one I've gotten so far. Personally, I'm going to be going for Pinpoint Strike. Like the other ones, I would want to get weapon damage, crit damage, a reduction or like health or reload speed or something like that, and then probably damage to great ones. Fortunately, I don't have that right now. This is the best one I've gotten so far. But again, take Pinpoint Strike and basically just put on the attribute effects from this, and that's going to be best in slot. I'm going to continue to try to work towards it, but again, that's the last thing I need to do, so not too much motivation left for me to run so much EX1. So like my last video or last build, I don't have enough materials to actually create this build, and as you guys can see by my house, I got Chaos Weavered. I'm not putting in as much time into this game as I did before, just because, again, the last thing I have to do is actually get the Unstable Bomber mask mod, so there's not much motivation for me right now, but I am still playing just more of a casual sense. But you guys take my word for it. You guys have seen my other videos where I've done the math out. I have done the math out for this. It's just I can't really show it, at least right now, but I will hopefully be able to show it next season. I'm on a rotation between Shrapnel, Unstable Bomber, and Bullseye builds just to give me a little spice for this game. But again, take my word for it. But other than that, guys, that is all I have for you. So make sure you guys drop a sub, drop a like, comment on the video. It really does help me out, and it's absolutely free. And the closer we get to 1K, the closer we get to give you guys some money for Once Human and for Throne, so you guys can reap the rewards of being part of this amazing community. So as always, take care, and I'll talk to you guys later.